Now we begin in Rivers State, where the sole administrator, Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas, has announced the release of withheld local government allocations. The former Chief of Naval Staff made this known during a meeting with heads of local government administrators on Friday in Port Harcourt, the state capital. Ibas stated that necessary steps would be taken to promptly pay workers' salaries and also expressed concerns over the delay in salary payments across local government areas, acknowledging the struggles of affected workers.
Let me assure you that the withheld allocations have now been released, and I hereby issue a directive that all the necessary steps be taken to ensure that these salaries are paid without any further delay. However, as this is a new administration, transparency and accountability are our watchwords. To this end, I hereby direct further that all local government areas furnish my office with the wage bills by way of a brief through the office of the head of service. This will enable me to acquaint myself with the situation, as this is my debut dealing with such a matter. All such submissions should be supported with relevant documents to provide clarity and ensure accuracy.
Now, the Rivers State Police Command has urged joint security forces to uphold human rights while maintaining order in the state. Commissioner of Police Sulugbenga Adekboju, who made this known, also reassured residents of their safety, emphasizing that the state remains peaceful. Addressing joint security channels, including officers from the police, Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps and the military at the police headquarters on Moscow Road, Port Harcourt, the commissioner stressed the need for confidence-building patrols amid the ongoing political crises. He also warned troublemakers to stay away, affirming that the police are fully on top of things.
The convoy patrol is to ensure that good people of Rivers State are safe, and I want to reassure them that there's peace in Rivers State, and we've sent them out to go on show of force to let them know that we are ready, and continue to assure them that the town will be peaceful, and for anyone who wants to foment any trouble, we'll ensure that we keep him where he belongs. I've just charged them to be courteous, the member of the public, do their job diligently, and ensure they patrol all nooks and crannies of Rivers State. We've been lecturing them. Their commanders have equally told them to ensure they respect human rights and ensure that people's rights are not being infringed on while they are performing their duty. This patrol will last for as long as we feel we should, and as long as we are assured that the members of the public in Rivers State are at rest and they know that yes, they are actually safe, and also to the dictates of the sole administrator on how events unfold.
In the meantime, the Ijaw Youth Council, Eastern Zone, has dragged the federal government to the ECOWAS Court of Justice over the suspension of Governor Siminalayi Fubara of Rivers State and other elected officials by President Bola Tinubu. The 12 litigants, led by Comrade Ibiso Harry, challenged the president's declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, describing it as an illegal suspension that violates their fundamental human rights. In the suit, the applicants urged the regional courts to issue an order setting aside and/or quashing the suspension of elected officials and removal of democratic structures and institutions in Rivers State. Now, to further discuss this, I'm joined by Bedford Berefa, spokesperson, Ijaw Youth Council. Bedford, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Wow.
Great. Now, Bedford, why did the Ijaw Youth Council decide to take this to the ECOWAS courts? Do you feel like there were no other options to challenge the suspension of Fubara and other officials?
We all know it's very glaring that before now I said we are going to take every legal openings, every legal windows to seek redress. And the best place we can go to is ECOWAS court, because we know that the Nigerian judiciary is already bought over, is already biased on judgment, because the level of judgment they give, it is laughable. And that is the reason why we settled for ECOWAS court. an angle aspect of Future Youth Council, which is an eastern zone that controls the other Port Harcourt area. We have to go to court to seek redress. We know that Nigeria in history does not obey any court ruling. Even ECOWAS for the issue of Dasuki, the government did not obey court's ruling. Even Kanu, the Nigerian system did not obey court ruling. However, like I said, we are going to explore every legal means, and that's what we have done. That's what we have done. And there are more legal openings, more legal angles that we are going to explore to seek redress, because this is anti-democracy, and as a people, we must stand against it by every opportunity that we get.
So, Bedford, your group described the suspension as illegal and a violation of your fundamental rights. Can you please break this down for us? What exactly makes this action unconstitutional or a breach of human rights?
You know, about 20 years ago, the current president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria was a victim of this same issue where his allocation was suspended. Nigerians rose up and fought. And it was unfortunately enough, it was Obasanjo who was a military man who had a military background. That was there. Nigeria rose up and stood against that level of injustice and unconstitutional democracy. Now he is not on the saddle and is carrying out that kind of devilish and very unconstitutional act. That is the reason why, and you know that when military is in a place, the human rights, the right of every human in River State is on suspension. It's a military rule that is in River State. You cannot move anyhow, you cannot gather anyhow, you cannot do any democratic thing in River State as well. So it's illegal, it is unpatriotic, it negates every principle that democracy has. That's why we have started illegal. We are not surprised that the National Assembly also, rubber stamp National Assembly as it were, has also gave kudos, credence to this rubbish, quote and unquote. Of course, we know what the Constitution says, the provision of Section 305, that's what it says about why, how emergency rule can come to play. But it's laughable that even in reps, it was voice vote that were used, despite the fact that some of the members were agitating for quorum. It was given a deaf ear. Even in Senate, laughably enough, it was voice vote that they used, to encourage, to constitutionalize an illegal act. And you know what it says? When an illegal act is allowed to stay, every other illegal action becomes legal.
What is your grasp with the voice vote, like you've just noted? What exactly is your grasp with that? What the Constitution prescribes is two-thirds majority by virtue of voting. For the House of Assembly, 230 persons that will vote. That is two-thirds majority. In the House of Senate, 74 members of the Senate was vote. It has to be published that these are the set of persons that voted. So voice vote is when they want to carry out illegality, they go about doing voice voting. And voice voting does not, in this context, it is unconstitutional, it's undemocratic, it is not the Constitution. It's two-thirds majority that the Constitution prescribes. And let there be a publication of the number of persons that voted. Let us know the senators that voted for the emergency rule in River State. Let us know what is happening. Because for now, we are in the dark, and that's illegality, that unconstitutional, devilish, draconic, rubber stamp Senate as of disgusting. All right, Bedford, we couldn't hear much of you at the end there, but I'm hoping that can be rectified as I ask my final question. Some people argue that Tinubu's move was necessary to bring stability to Rivers State, especially considering the economics of Nigeria. So do you think that there was a better way to handle this crisis?
My brother, this is a political fight. And the only way that political differences can be resolved is via political means. And the federal government did not explore those political channels effectively. And look at the reason why they are even giving a state of emergency. Before now, there have been series of explosions as a result of obsolete equipment in the Niger Delta, particularly in River State. Bukuma was one of those communities that experienced ravaging well-aired destruction that led that led to the disease that community cannot recover from such. Now, even the pipeline, where they say explosion took place in Bokana, as I'm talking to you, the exploration activity is still going on. They are still transporting crude from that point. So you will see the handwriting is very, very, very clear that there is no reason to declare in the state of emergency in River State. It was just draconic. As I'm talking to you, even the military, 10,000 military people in River State, they are doing nothing because there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. They are pepper souping and enjoying themselves. That is what they're doing, and indeed infringing on the democratic provisions of the people. Human rights is being violated. We call on Amnesty International and every other international body to put flashlight to be concerned in what is happening in River State. This is draconic, this is indeed devilish, and it is not constitutional. And so there was no reason, to bring that level of drastic action in River State because it was not called for. There was no war. There is no war.
All right, then, Bedford.
We have the environmental.
We're losing you again, Bedford. All right, Bedford. We're losing you again, Bedford. Thank you very much, Bedford. Unfortunately, we won't be able to continue because the audio there is getting a bit bad. But we did get your points that you have made. Thank you very much, Bedford. Berefa. Now, meanwhile, at least 300 civil society groups have condemned the state of emergency declared by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in Rivers State, describing it as unconstitutional and unnecessary. Now, the groups also criticized the National Assembly for approving the proclamation, insisting that the decision was both unjustified and also inconsistent with constitutional provisions. Our correspondent here, Sagir Ibrahim, brings us the details.
The lingering political tension in Rivers State stemming from the rift between Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his predecessor, now Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has sparked controversy across the country. In response to the escalating crisis, President Bola Tinubu declared a state of emergency, citing the need to safeguard lives and protect Nigeria's critical assets. Following his proclamation, the president wrote to the National Assembly seeking their approval, which was granted by both chambers. However, during a news conference in Abuja, members from over 300 civil society groups convened on Abuja under the guise Fix Politics Nigeria and condemned the president's action, labeling it as unconstitutional and unjustified use of Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution.
There is no provision, there's no clause, there's nothing in the Constitution that empowers a democratic president to remove another duly elected official.
The president swore in this military man before the National Assembly had sat. He usurped the powers of the Chief Justice, and that is terrible optics that we must not forget and we must not allow to stand.
If we say the issue of vandalization is a reason why there will be a state of emergency, then the question I will ask also, is there any state in Nigeria that wouldn't have a state of emergency?
The groups further accused the National Assembly of breaching standard procedures by approving the president's request via a voice vote instead of a head count as outlined in the Constitution.
Each member of that chamber would rise up and say, I am in agreements with the proclamation by the president. That will be recorded. But unfortunately, at this time in history, Nigerians are seeing a situation where their legislators, with a voice vote, approved the proclamation of the president. This is clearly unconstitutional.
We believe that there's still opportunity for the National Assembly to do the right thing, to hold the executive branch accountable and compel them to do the right thing. We believe there's still an opportunity for the executive branch to go back and do a rethink and say, okay, fine, this has created unintended consequences in the country, and therefore we are going to take a second look at this and make some changes.
The groups called for alternative political strategies to resolve the crisis, describing the emergency rule as an executive coup against Nigeria's youth and the broader public. In Abuja for News Central, I'm Sagir Ibrahim.
Now, in a related development, the Nigeria Governors Forum has stated that it will not take a position on President Bola Tinubu's declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, reaffirming its commitment to fostering unified policies and also driving socio-economic development. In a statement, NGF Director General Abdulateef Shittu stressed that engaging in divisive partisan issues would undermine the forum's long-standing unity. The NGF called for public understanding and expressed confidence that appropriate crisis management measures would resolve the situation. We're going on a short break now, and when we get back, Borno man assaults minor for plucking mangoes in his compound. Details of this and more after the break. Please do stay with us. Welcome back. Now to education. The federal government has inaugurated the Governing Council and Principal Officers of the Federal University of Applied Sciences, Kachia, in Kaduna State. The Minister of Education during the ceremony charged the newly inaugurated members to give their best for the development of the institution and the state. The Governing Council comprises Bishop Matthew Kuka, the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, as chairman, Thomas Etu, representing the North Central, Fabian Nwora from the Southeast, Professor Femi Taiwo from the Southwest, and Zarabuka from the Northeast as members. Also, Professor Curix Barnabas was inaugurated as the Vice-Chancellor, Sanusi Adamu as the Registrar, Ibrahim Dalhatu as Bursar, and Professor Daniel Abubakar as the University Librarian. Now let's head to Katsina State, where Governor Dikko Rada's 5.7 billion naira goat rearing initiative aims to empower thousands of women by distributing 40,000 goats. But despite its lofty goals, beneficiaries like Nana Fatima, a widow with 9 children, face significant challenges. Our investigation reveals struggles with sick goats, unclear selection processes, and the burden of returning the same number of goats within a year. News Central's Rukaya Aliyu Jibia reports here.
This is Nana Fatima, a widow with 9 children. She is one of the 3,610 beneficiaries of Katsina State's 5.7 billion naira goat empowerment program. The government says it is a life-changing initiative from the shackles of poverty to economic independence and women inclusion. But for Nana and some other beneficiaries, it has turned into a struggle for survival.
You can hear it breathing. It got really uncomfortable for it to poo. I said they should slaughter it, but I want to monitor the condition of the second goat.
2 of my goats are currently sick. I called the veterinarian. He will be here soon, but I don't know if I am still giving back 4 goats if any of them die.
According to National Population Commission, 51% of Katsina population are women, with only about 20 to 30% of literate women, while the rest are either unemployed or facing abject poverty amidst rising insecurity in the state. Though, to many, the program sounds like a life-changing opportunity, but clearly shown misgivings full of cracks. The selection process remains shrouded in mystery. Politicizing every opportunity in government program has been making it unsuccessful.
I heard of this from Mashi. Someone worked it out for me. Usman Osi. Yes, I am related to Usman Osi.
Osi, I am one of his relatives.
I know Abubakar Sani.
The questions are, how were these women selected? What is the criteria for selection?
Imams of the 2 most recognized Islamic sects are members of the committee from the Izala and Darika. And then we have the councillor representing that vote. So this committee is Sadilu's responsibility of selecting the beneficiaries.
Launched in November last year, the KSDP aimed at empowering communities through grassroots development. But for many beneficiaries, the reality has fallen short of this mission. Even for those who received the goods, the challenges are overwhelming. Many beneficiaries can barely feed themselves, let alone their livestock. And the pressure to return 4 goats to the government in just 1 year adds to their stress. And with 6 goats dying, the burden only grows heavier. But the question is, in a 21st century society driven by technology, innovation, and digital economies, will an empowerment of 4 goats to 3,610 women be considered as the best use of 5.7 billion naira in empowering citizens, or do they deserve better?
In fact, we have even started in some of the wards, training them, pulling them together, giving them the necessary what to do on goat rearing.
Each goat distributed under this program cost the government 144,000 naira. Yet in local market, a goat of that size sells for just 30 to 40,000 naira. This staggering difference raises serious questions.
It's not a scandal. What do you mean by a scandal?
But many people actually.
Because they don't understand the whole concept of the program. We are trying to empower people. We are trying to make people viable. We are trying to make people to do something that will earn them livings.
Analysts call it a misuse of public funds, arguing the money could have been used more effectively to address the root causes of poverty.
Most of the beneficiaries, they normally came from the political parties' loyalists and the family and friend of political office holders. I call it so-called empowerment because the empowerment did not even touch the root cause. You know, when you look at the northern part of the country, like particularly northwest, we are the victims of banditry. Many people left their home. Many people are farmers, but now they cannot even go to their farms. Majority of people now becomes what we call IDPs, internally displaced persons. It's a huge amount of money. If it can be used appropriately, I believe it will touch the lives of millions of Nigerians.
Empowerment programs are only as good as their execution. Without proper planning, transparency, and follow-through, they risk doing more harm than good. For Nana and many others, the goats were meant to be a lifeline. Instead, they've become a burden. The question remains, was this truly empowerment or just another misplaced priority? In Katsina, Rukaiya Jibia for News Central.
Now, a group of women under the aegis of the Kogi Central Development Women's Association, claiming to be constituents of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Aduaghan, have intensified calls for her recall. News Central investigative correspondent Marshal Anthony Onanye reported from Kogi State says the demand persists despite an interim injunction obtained on Thursday by Senator Akpoti-Aduaghan from a federal high court in Kogi State.
We believe that we should be good image to women across the world. And as far as we're concerned, Senator Natasha Akpoti had not represented us in good light. It is a rare privilege for women to be able to go that far in politics. For her to be a member of the Red Chambers, we felt it was one of the good things that has happened to us as women from Kogi Central. And that's very germane for other political women, so that that chance will always be available for us. And so we're seeing that her attitude and her behavior there, it's dimming our opportunities and our chances. And so we have to speak up to say this is not what we are, and we are not being represented as we expected. The class of persons you have interfaced with today are women who have their own minds, are women who are into politics that can be verified.
Our special correspondent on investigative journalism, Marshal Anthony Onanye, is live from Kogi State, where he has been assessing the situation. Marshal, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Can you bring us up to speed on the latest development in the federal constituency at the center of these issues, please? Unfortunately, Marshal, we can't hear you. I'm hoping that it's a technical
group of people.
There we go.
For a recall, but these activities have equally been heavily criticized by the PDP, which is the party that Natasha emanated from. I'm standing here with Honorable Badamosi, who was a former representative from Kogi State and a PDP stalwart. And before now, he's criticized those calls, but I'd like to hear from him directly now. So earlier on when we spoke, you you did say that these calls were fictitious and the signatures were fake. What more can be said about these calls for the recall of Natasha?
Thanks so much. I am Abdurrahman Badamasi. The recall is born out of envy, jealousy, hatred, and extreme wickedness for our people. There's a trend I am seeing in our place. The trend is that those who failed in governance will not like to see anybody performing well. That is the exact thing playing out. But the common people of Kogi Central are solidly behind Barrister Senator Natasha Apoti because they know exactly that there is a difference in what she is doing.
Now, the people that have majorly clamored for her recall from yesterday and the day before, while we entered Kogi State, we had met with them and they had said, look, she might be going overboard with the allegations of sexual harassment and she has not tendered any evidence to these allegations, and they have urged her to, come home and present these facts. What do you have to say about that aspect of the sexual harassment allegation?
Yes, how does it concern our people? If she alleged that she was sexually harassed, how does it affect our people? How does it call for a recall? So that's to tell you that the exercise is born out of sheer wickedness and envy.
And the thought that her 6-month suspension would leave this federal constituency out of their representation at the national level, you don't see that as credible enough?
No, it will not be sustained, like she rightly said. The Senate has no right to suspend a fellow senator more than 14 days. So the court will handle that one.
Okay, well, Mazino, there you have it. You would recall that Natasha had also gone to court to counter these calls, and the court has equally given an injunction to that order asking INEC not to listen to any of these requests. Mazino.
So, Marshall, I spoke to you yesterday. I think you were in the eye of the storm. You spoke to some individuals who actually gave their grievances with the senator. But are there still agitations of the sort, even after that event from yesterday up until now? Are there still calls for her recall after all of the administrative or legal recourses that might have been taken?
I wouldn't really say agitations, but yes, you still have pockets of gatherings here and there within the state capital and her homestead. We just arrived at her homestead in Okene here, and you would have majorly people who tried to, would I say, come in from Lokoja into Okene and, holding these meetings here and there and addressing media and still going ahead to call for her recall. And as a matter of fact, saying that for her to have gone up to the courts to take an injunction against their action is a clear indication that she's guilty of what she's been accused of. And I'd also say, talking about the situation here in Kogi State earlier on, Badamosi had also told us that his house was besieged by soldiers earlier on today, and I would want to ask him too if he has information as to whether that you said the military men besieged your house.
In the morning, 4 trucks of military personnel besieged my house. On inquiry, they said that they are depriving people from gathering. I said, usually in my house, from time immemorial, it's a crowd. As long as I'm at home, there's a big crowd there. So they say they don't want to see anybody, and they seal off my entrance. The pictures are there, the videos are there.
And that has prompted him leaving his official residence or his residence to his father's house, where we currently met up with him. We've been on his trail for 2 days now. It's been very difficult and tough to get a hold of him until we finally got him here in his father's house. That's what you might find in other, he has also said other members of the PDP also have complained of their houses being besieged by security men.
Okay. Marshall, thank you very much for bringing us the details regarding the situation there in Kogi State. Thank you. We appreciate that. Moving on now, in Nigeria's northeast state of Borno, a young schoolgirl has been hospitalized at the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital after suffering severe injuries from a brutal beating by a man identified as Maman Shatima Baba. News Central's correspondent Maru Kirawa reports that the minor was assaulted for plucking mangoes from a tree. The Borno State Police Public Relations Officer Nahum Kenneth Daso confirmed to our correspondent that the suspect, Maman Shatima Baba, has been arrested, while the young girl continues to receive treatment at the hospital. Authorities have assured the public that investigations are ongoing and justice will be served. Our correspondent will continue to monitor developments and provide updates as more details emerge. Now, the various security agencies in Plateau State have restated their commitments to ensuring relative peace in the state is sustained. This was made known during the first enlarged security stakeholders engagement this year, organized by the State Commissioner of Police, Emmanuel Adeshina. News Central's Chizoba Nyanwe tells us more on this.
These stakeholders from different ethnic groups, men, women and youth organizations in the state gathered here on the auspices of the State Commissioner of Police for lasting solutions to security issues on the plateau.
This gathering is not a political meeting, please. All of us are gathered here with genuine minds to find solutions to the problem of our people. And I believe that we have achieved a lot. Hence, we cannot do it alone. We have to work together. All hands must be on deck to ensure that we realize this.
The significance of today's engagement cannot be overemphasized. It is a testament to our unified resolve to address the challenges we face, not with violence or division, but through collaboration, empathy, and shared responsibility.
Governor Caleb Mutfwang is optimistic that the relative peace currently in the state will be sustained.
We want to thank the security agencies on how they've been helping us to curb insecurity in the state. They have done their best, but their best will not be good enough if we do not partner with them. Because the onus is on us to make sure that we maintain peace with ourselves and with one another. Everyone that is here is expected that he should go back home as an individual invited and as a group to preach peace to one another.
The listening ear to the concerns of these stakeholders remains paramount for the sustenance of peace in the state.
If we will synergize with the security, the police, the STF, it will go alongside the community police so that our farms can be protected.
There's a river behind my house. Concerning the mining, a lot of crimes are going on there. So please, the security should extend their tentacles towards there.
For the police boss in the state, this will be a continuous effort in ensuring Plateau gets back fully to the home of peace and tourism again. In Plateau State, for News Central, Chizoba Anyoe.
Niger has declared 3 days of mourning after 44 civilians were killed in a brutal attack by militants linked to the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara. According to the Interior Ministry, heavily armed attackers stormed a mosque in Kokoro, Fambita quarters during prayers, killing worshippers. At least 13 others were wounded. The assailants also set fire to a market and several homes before fleeing. Authorities have promised to hunt them down and bring them to justice. The attack occurred near the borders of Burkina Faso and Mali, a region that has long been plagued by terrorist violence.
Mars 2025, le village de Fambita, commune rurale de Kokoro, a fait l'objet d'une attaque barbare perpétrée par les terroristes de l'État islamique du Grand Sahara, EIGS. En effet, c'est vers 14 h, alors que les fidèles musulmans accomplissaient la prière collective du vendredi, que ces terroristes lourdement armés ont encerclé la mosquée pour opérer leur massacre d'une rare cruauté. Non satisfaits de leur ignominie, ils ont systématiquement incendié le marché et les habitations au cours de leur repli. Le bilan provisoire communiqué par les forces de défense et de sécurité déployées en intervention s'établit ainsi qu'il suit. 14 44 martyrs, tous civils, 13 blessés, dont 4 graves pris en charge. Cet acte ignoble commis un vendredi, jour saint de l'islam, dans les 10 derniers jours du mois.
Now, Namibia's newly elected president, Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, has promised to expand agricultural investments and diversify the country's resource-driven economy to address high unemployment. Now, speaking after her swearing-in, Namibia's first female president stressed the urgent need to create jobs, particularly for young people. She emphasized that economic diversification would ensure greater benefits for citizens from the country's vast natural resources. Nandi-Ndaitwah also reaffirmed her commitment to fighting corruption and upholding the highest ethical standards in governance. She said her election serves as an inspiration for women to step forward and be counted, adding that her victory was based on merit, not gender.
I believe that having been elected as president of my country will encourage women from all walks of life to stand up and to be counted with a clear understanding that I was not elected because I'm a woman, but on merit. That is to say, as women, we should not ask to be elected to position of responsibility because we are women, but because we are capable members of our we will increase investment in the development of infrastructures to open investment opportunities, enhance economic productivity, promote economic growth, and improve the quality of life of our people.
Now, Sudanese Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan has said the military is making steady progress in its mission to reclaim Sudan, following the recapture of the presidential palace in Khartoum from the paramilitary rapid support forces. Addressing a crowd in Al-Qalmin in central Al Jazeera state, Burhan described the victory as a significant blow to the RSF, which has been engaged in a fierce battle with the army for control of the country. Now, London's Heathrow Airport has fully resumed operations following major travel disruptions caused by a fire at a power station, according to an airport spokesperson. The incident temporarily grounded flights, triggering chaos for thousands of passengers worldwide. While normal operations have resumed, airlines are working to clear backlogs and minimize further delays. Passengers are advised to check with their airlines for updated flight information. U.S. President Donald Trump has denied signing a proclamation that invoked a 200-year-old law to deport Venezuelan gang members to a prison in El Salvador. His denial comes after a federal judge raised concerns about the legality of the move. Last weekend, Trump's administration invoked the Alien Enemies Act to deport 238 men suspected of being members of the Tren de Aragua, a notorious criminal gang. The White House had initially confirmed that Trump signed the proclamation, which was also published in the Federal Register.
Because we want to get criminals out of our country, number one, and I don't know when it was signed because I didn't sign it. Other people handled it. But Marco Rubio's done a great job, and he wanted them out, and we go along with that. We want to get criminals out of our country. If there was a point, he should be asking this judge, this radical left judge, he should be saying, why did Biden allow these criminals in our country? That's what he should be doing. Thank you. But the concept of getting bad people, murderers, rapists, drug dealers, all of these are really some bad people out of our country. I ran on that. I won on that. I got it.
Business now. The Nigeria Customs Service, NCS, at Murtala Mohammed International Airport has seized $578,000 from a passenger who falsely declared only $279,000 upon arrival from Johannesburg. During a routine inspection, customs officials discovered an additional $299,000 concealed in multiple packages, bringing the total sum to $578,000. Authorities also found £100 and a counterfeit $250 note among the undeclared cash. This violation of the Money Laundering Prohibition Act of 2011 has led to the handover of these funds to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, for further investigation. The EFCC emphasized the importance of full cash disclosure, warning that attempts to evade regulations will face strict legal consequences. Investors like Franklin Resources, JP Morgan Chase, and Wells Fargo have clashed, or rather slashed, their South African bond holdings, triggering outflows not seen since May's elections. U.S.-South African tensions, fueled by alleged ties to Iran and support for Palestine, have sparked fears of losing AGOA, that's AGOA trade benefits, despite 16.1 billion rand in foreign bond sell-offs this month. Domestic buyers like Sanlam and Standard Bank stepped in. Meanwhile, Allianz and BlackRock increased their holdings, showing confidence in debt consolidation efforts. On Business Edge earlier, we had Professor Andre Roos, economist from the University of Stellenbosch Business School, who explained the possible outcome for South Africa within previous U.S. synergy.
Yes, certainly there's a possibility that some funds have decided to sell off their bonds, but others have decided, presumably, by all accounts, to actually raise their stake in SA bonds. So you must remember that through thick and thin, for the last number of decades, South Africa has never defaulted on its government debt and never failed to pay its interest. So we've actually built up amongst seasoned, I would say, players in the market, a good reputation of never defaulting, never failing to pay interest. And by the way, the interest we offer on government bonds is obviously very attractive. So for many investors, they see this as being a kind of a win-win situation. Investing in bonds is liquid, which means if you do get nervous, you can withdraw very quickly. But at the same time, as long as you have those bonds, you're earning 7, 8, 9% interest, which beats most countries in the world. So, as I said, it's a win-win situation for investors. And therefore, I don't see us failing.
Sports now. Nigerian striker Victor Osimhen has eclipsed legendary striker Segun Odegbami on the country's all-time leading goal scorers list after scoring his 24th and 25th goals against Rwanda in Nigeria's critical 2026 World Cup qualifying game on Friday. With the brace, Osimhen moves into second place on Nigeria's goal-scoring table, trailing only on the late Rashidi Yakini's 37-goal total. Osimhen, who is playing his debut game in the 2026 World Cup qualification series, scored his 25th goal in the 45th minute of regular time against Rwanda in his 39th appearance for Nigeria. He tied Odegbami's record last November during Nigeria's 1-1 draw with Benin Republic in a 2025 AFCON qualifying encounter. He has also scored 26 goals and provided 5 assists in 30 games across all competitions. And that's all this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories we brought your way. Nigeria Governors Forum maintains neutral stance on declaration of state of emergency in Rivers State. And Kogi Central women push for Senator Agboti Uduaghan's recall. We also told you that 44 were killed in deadly mosque attack as government declares 3-day national mourning. Remember, you may send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on your screens now. And do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. Remember now, you can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Evo TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.